The moonshade realm lay under a heavy sky, where the clouds swirled like smoke across the mountains and the forest whispered secrets in the cold wind. Deep in a hidden valley, shielded from the eyes of the world, lived Lyra, an Omega unlike any other. She had been born into a noble pack, her silver hair and soft eyes marking her as special. But the pack's elders had rejected her. A cruel curse, older than memory, had marked her family, and fear had made them cast her out. Lyra had learned early that the world could be cruel. She had felt the bite of rejection, the sting of loneliness, and the cold emptiness of abandoned nights. Yet, in her exile, she had discovered something that the nobles had never understood. Compassion could be a power stronger than fear. Her home was small, a cluster of stone ruins surrounded by thick woods. Inside, she kept warmth, light, and a safe haven for the lost. Every day, she tended to wounded creatures, stray pups, and the abandoned. They came to her from far and wide, drawn by a gentle presence that could calm even the most frightened heart. She never asked why they came, nor did she turn any away. One evening, as the sun dipped behind jagged peaks and the forest turned golden and red, Lyra knelt beside a trembling pup. Its leg was broken, and its eyes were wide with pain and fear. She murmured softly, her fingers brushing over the fur, and a faint glow rose from her hands, easing the pup's agony. It whimpered once, then nuzzled her in gratitude. "Shh. It's okay," she whispered. "You're safe now. No one will hurt you here." She whispered, "You're okay." Her voice carried a strange calm, a sound that seemed to make the shadows lean closer, listening. Many had whispered that Lyra had a gift, that the spirits of lost wolves spoke to her, guiding the lost to her sanctuary. Whether it was gift or instinct, she had learned to trust it, and the valley had become a place of quiet miracles. Despite her peace, the world beyond the valley did not forget her. The Alpha King, KL, ruled the packs with a strength that few dared question. His silver-gray eyes, sharp as a blade, were always alert to threats. Rumors had reached him. Stories of an Omega, exiled and rejected, who had become a guardian for the forsaken. Some said the lost pups obeyed her as they would a pack leader, a creature of strange power that should not exist outside the rules of the realm. One day, a scout returned from the northern forests, breathless and wide-eyed. "Your Highness," he said, bowing low, "the Omega. She shelters the lost. Even the pups from rival packs seek her." Kale's lips pressed into a thin line. He had always respected power, even in those he did not control. Yet, he did not like to hear of an Omega, cast out and alone, wielding influence over those his pack considered weak or worthless. Something inside him stirred a mix of curiosity, pride, and a faint unease he could not name. Meanwhile, Lyra worked tirelessly in her sanctuary. Night fell, and the forest seemed alive with whispers of wings and soft paw steps. She counted the pups, tucked each one into blankets made of leaves and soft moss, and listened for any sounds of danger. Her instincts had kept her safe all these years. But tonight, the air felt different, heavier, almost electric. She looked toward the tree line, her eyes catching a movement in the shadows. A figure stepped into the silver light of the moon, broad-shouldered, imposing, and moving with the certainty of one who commanded. He paused at the edge of the clearing. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. She had heard of alphas before, warriors who led packs with iron paws, but none had ever come to her valley. The figure stepped closer, and Lyra recognized the unmistakable strength in his gait. "Alpha King," she whispered under her breath, though the sound did not escape him. Kale's gaze swept over the sanctuary, his eyes narrowing as he observed the dozens of pups gathered around Lyra, tails wagging, bodies trembling in both fear and affection. He noticed how they circled her protectively, how she moved among them with quiet authority, and how they seemed to trust her without question. "Omega," he called, his voice low, strong, and unyielding. "I am KL, Alpha of the Moonshade Packs. Step forward." Lyra stood, straightening her back, despite the tension in her chest. She did not move closer or back away. She simply met his gaze, with calm defiance. "I am Lyra," she said softly, yet her voice carried through the clearing. "This is my sanctuary. I do not harm any creature here, nor do I allow them to be taken without cause." Kale's eyes flickered with something unreadable. He had expected fear, submission, or even anger. But not this. Not the quiet strength of someone who had been cast out and survived on her own terms. It stirred something inside him, a feeling long buried under the weight of duty and battles won. "I have heard of you," Kyle said slowly. "They say even the lost and broken seek you. Tell me, Omega, why do they come to you?" "Ache." Lyra's gaze softened as she looked at the nearest pup, a small black creature trembling at her feet. "Because I care for them," she said. "Because no one else did. Because even the rejected deserve someone to believe in them." Kale felt a strange tension knot in his chest. He had ruled with strength, with laws and commands, but here was someone who commanded loyalty, not through fear, but through trust. He did not understand it yet, but he knew the effect it had on him and on those around her. "You are not like the others," he said finally, his voice low. "Most Omegas would not dare. Not without protection." Lyra's silver hair shifted as she shook her head. "I do not need protection," she said. "I need only to protect those who cannot protect themselves." For a long moment, they stared at each other. Two forces in a quiet battle of wills. The pups watched silently, sensing the tension. The forest held its breath. Even the wind seemed to pause. Then, without warning, Lyra's ears twitched a sound, too soft for any human to hear, but not for her. Something moved in the distant trees, something large and dangerous. The pups growled softly, backing toward her instinctively. Lyra's instincts flared, her body tensing as she stepped in front of them, ready. Kale's lips curved slightly. "It seems you are not only wise but vigilant," he murmured, stepping closer, his presence both reassuring and intimidating. "The world is full of hunters. You have survived long enough, but your sanctuary may not remain safe for much longer." Lyra swallowed, her heart pounding. But she did not retreat. "Then I will fight for it," she said, her voice steady. "As I always have." The Alpha King studied her for a moment longer. And for the first time in many years, he felt the stirrings of something new. Curiosity, respect, and an emotion he did not dare name. He knew he could take the pups by force, command them, bend this wild Omega to his will. Yet, some deep part of him hesitated. He wanted to understand her, to see the reason behind her courage. Lyra sensed it too, the weight of his gaze, heavy with authority yet hesitant, as though he were testing the limits of his own power against hers. For the first time, she realized that this encounter would not be simple. The Alpha King had come for answers, but what neither of them knew was that fate had already begun weaving their paths together. As the moon rose high over the valley, casting silver light on the clearing, a cold wind stirred. Lyra's hair lifted around her face, and she felt a strange premonition ripple through her. Something had changed in the balance of the world, and neither she nor Kyle would be the same again. The Alpha King's shadow loomed closer, his presence as commanding as the mountains themselves. Lyra's heart raced, not from fear, but from anticipation, for she understood that the story of her life, and the lives of every lost pup in the valley, was about to enter a chapter far darker, far more dangerous, and far more powerful than any they had known. And in that moment, Lyra realized, even the rejected can shape the fate of kings. Cliffhanger. A low, urgent growl echoed through the forest. Lyra's ears twitched, the pups scattered in fear, and the shadows of hunters loomed beyond the tree line. She turned toward the sound, silver eyes wide, and froze. There, emerging from the darkness, was a figure she could not yet name, but its presence would change everything. The growl from the forest echoed like thunder in the valley. Lyra's heart pounded, but she did not falter. The pups whimpered, pressing close to her, and she knelt to gather them, her silver hair falling over her shoulders like a curtain of light in the dim moonlight. From the tree line emerged not one, but a small pack of hunters. Their eyes gleamed with malice, teeth bared in hunger. Lyra instinctively stepped forward, placing herself between them and the vulnerable pups. Her voice, soft but commanding, cut through the night. "Leave them," she said, steady and unwavering. "You will harm none while I stand here." The leader of the hunters snarled, a cruel smile twisting his lips. "And who are you to command us, Omega? Your kind are weak, alone, abandoned." "Nothing." Lyra straightened her back, meeting the man's gaze without fear. "I am stronger than you think," she said quietly. Yet there was steel beneath the softness, "and I will not allow harm to come to these innocents." Before the hunters could react, a shadow moved through the trees. Kale, the Alpha King. He appeared with silent power, his presence cutting through the night like a blade. The hunters froze at the sight of him. Even seasoned warriors hesitated before the legendary Alpha. "Enough," Kale's voice rumbled like rolling thunder. "Step back, or face consequences you cannot imagine." The leader sneered, but something in the Alpha's eyes made him hesitate. The pack looked at each other, tension thick in the air, before retreating slowly into the darkness, growls fading as they disappeared. Lyra exhaled, relief softening her posture. The pups circled her, sensing the danger had passed, and nuzzled against her legs. Yet even as she watched them, she could not ignore the presence of the Alpha, standing at the edge of her sanctuary. His gaze was fixed on her, not as an enemy, but with an intensity that unsettled her in ways she could not name. "You command loyalty," Kale said finally, stepping closer. His eyes swept over the clearing, the scattered pups, and then returned to her face. "Even the lost obey you. I have never seen anything like this." Lyra met his gaze evenly. "They are not mine to command," she said. "They follow because I care for them. That is all." Kale studied her, intrigued. Few had ever spoken to him with such honesty, such quiet authority. Most would cower or lie. Lyra did neither. She stood, alone yet unbroken, in a world that had rejected her. "You have a rare gift," he said slowly. "And a dangerous one. The world is not kind to those who wield power without fear. Why do you stay hidden here, among the rejected and the lost?" Lyra's silver eyes softened as she looked at the scattered pups. "Because they need me," she said. "Because no one else would. And perhaps, because I belong nowhere else." There was a pause. Kale's expression shifted, a storm of emotions flickering across his face. Respect, curiosity, and a shadow of longing. He had ruled the packs for years, commanding loyalty with strength, fear, and strategy. Yet here was an Omega, cast out by her own family, who held sway over hearts and lives with nothing but care and courage. "You are an anomaly," he murmured. "And I must understand you. I cannot allow rumors to spread unchecked, for they reach the ears of allies and enemies alike. Tell me, Omega, what is your secret?" Lyra's heart tightened at his question. To reveal everything would be dangerous. Her gift was rare and fragile, tied to the spirits of lost creatures and to the unseen threads that connected them. It was why the pups trusted her, why even the forest seemed to recognize her presence. And yet, something in Kale's gaze made her hesitate less than she had before. "I am different," she said carefully. "I can calm fear. I can guide those who are lost. That is all. I have no desire for power, only to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Kale's eyes narrowed, studying her. "Power without desire, for it is rare, dangerous, and unpredictable." Lyra's lips pressed together. She did not need to explain more. He would see it for himself soon enough. The tension between them was palpable, like a storm gathering in the distance. Kale could feel it the way her presence challenged him, questioned him, drew out feelings he had long buried. He had never been tested in this way. Strength alone could not command loyalty here. Only trust, only understanding, only a bond stronger than fear could hold sway. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the forest around them holding its breath. The pups circled Lyra, instinctively forming a shield of soft bodies and wagging tails. Kale watched, a flicker of admiration crossing his features. Then, without warning, a howl shattered the night. A pack of wild wolves, fierce and untamed, had encircled the clearing, their eyes glowing in the silver moonlight. Lyra's pupils dilated, her senses flaring. She knew these wolves were not merely animals, they were hungry, dangerous, and drawn to the presence of power in the valley. Kale's muscles tensed, his alpha instinct screaming at him to strike, to protect, to dominate. Yet he held his position, studying Lyra. He realized something profound. She was not afraid. She stood tall, silver hair glinting in the moonlight, calm and commanding even in the face of danger. "Do not approach," she said, her voice carrying through the night, gentle yet firm. "I will not allow harm here. Leave, or face the consequences of crossing me." The wolves paused, sensing the strength in her words, and then backed away slightly. Lyra exhaled, relief, tempered by the knowledge that danger was never far. She turned to Kale, who now stepped forward, placing himself beside her. "You handle yourself well," he said quietly. "But strength alone will not always be enough. You must trust others, even those who seem like enemies, to protect what is yours." Lyra nodded slowly. "I have trusted before," she said softly, "and I have been betrayed. That is why I rely on my own instincts first. Always." Kale studied her for a long moment, the fire of his curiosity and admiration growing. "Then you are truly remarkable, Lyra. I cannot leave this matter unresolved. The world will hear of you, and I must know, will you answer to me willingly, or must I compel your obedience?" Lyra's silver eyes met his, unwavering. "I answer to no one," she said, "except to those I care for." The Alpha King's lips curved, almost imperceptibly. He understood the challenge, and the thrill of facing someone who could not be commanded. This Omega, rejected by her own pack, had a strength he had never encountered before, and it drew him closer, against all the rules he had lived by. "Then it seems we are at an impasse," he said finally. "I will not take the pups by force. Not yet. But know this. I will watch. I will learn. And one day, I will return to claim answers. Do not mistake my patience for weakness." Lyra's heart pounded at his words. She had faced hunters, wild wolves, and exile itself. Yet there was something about the Alpha King, something magnetic, dangerous, and unknowable, that unsettled her in a way she had never felt before. As he turned to leave, his eyes lingered on her, and she felt a strange pull, a connection neither of them fully understood. The moonlight shimmered off his silver-gray hair, casting long shadows across the clearing, and for a moment, the world seemed suspended in silence. Lyra gathered the pups close, whispering to them, feeling their warmth and trust. She knew the Alpha King would return, and when he did, nothing would be the same. The forest around them hummed with life and anticipation, as if aware that the fate of the valley, of the lost pups, and of Lyra herself, was about to shift in ways beyond comprehension. And in the quiet that followed, Lyra realized the truth of her existence. Even the rejected could shape destinies, challenge kings, and ignite change that no one dared imagine. Cliffhanger. As Lyra tucked the pups into their nests, a shadow detached itself from the edge of the forest, silent, watching, and patient. Lyra's ears twitched, and a chill ran down her spine. She knew instinctively that this was no ordinary threat. Someone, or something, was coming, something that would test not only her courage but the fragile bond between her and the Alpha King. The valley lay quiet under the silver glow of the moon. Yet the stillness was deceptive. Lyra sensed it in the trembling of the leaves and the nervous whispers of the pups. A presence beyond the ordinary. She had spent years protecting the lost, reading the silent messages the forest whispered to her. But tonight, something was different. Something dark, patient, and watching. Kale remained in the valley longer than expected. He had left only briefly to report to his scouts, but even from afar, he could not ignore the pull of Lyra's sanctuary. Something about her unsettled him, stirred him in ways that logic could not contain. He returned silently, stepping into the clearing without a sound. As if drawn by an invisible thread, Lyra turned as he approached, her silver hair glinting in the moonlight. She had expected him, yet she could not shake the tension rising in her chest. "You shouldn't return alone," she said, her voice steady but carrying an unspoken warning. "I did not come alone," he replied, his eyes sweeping the valley. "I bring what you cannot see." Before she could ask, a low rustle came from the forest edge. From the shadows emerged a group of wolves, not ordinary wolves, but ones that carried the eerie calm of the wild, their eyes glowing faintly in the night. Lyra froze, recognizing them immediately. These were the spirits of the lost, creatures neither fully alive nor fully gone, drawn to her by something she had never fully understood. "You can see them," Kael said quietly, reading her reaction. "The lost. They follow you, and yet you protect them. Why?" Lyra knelt, letting the pups gather closer, and whispered softly. The wolves circled her, their movements gentle yet commanding. "I have no choice," she said. "They come to me. They trust me. I cannot turn them away, no matter how dangerous it is. They are the lost. Like me." Kael studied her, a storm of admiration and unease crossing his face. He had commanded packs, led battles, and faced betrayals, yet he had never encountered someone whose strength lay in care rather than power. The forest around them seemed to lean closer, listening, as if the night itself acknowledged the rare force standing in the clearing. "You are not simply an Omega," he murmured, stepping closer. "You carry a gift, a power that could change the balance of the realm." Lyra's gaze dropped to the pups, her hands brushing their soft fur. "It is not power I seek," she said. "I do this because they have no one else. They are afraid, abandoned, and hopeless. I give them hope. That is all." Kael's voice softened, yet carried the weight of command. "Hope is a dangerous thing in our world. Strength and fear govern the lands. But you wield something even stronger. They follow you not because they must, but because they believe. That is rare and precious." A sudden growl broke the quiet, this one sharper, closer. Lyra's ears twitched instinctively. From the darkness, a single figure emerged, a wolf larger than any she had seen before. Its fur black as midnight, eyes gleaming with intelligence and cunning. Its presence radiated authority, and the pups whimpered, instinctively retreating to her side. Kael stepped forward without hesitation. His presence, commanding and unyielding, met the wolf's silent challenge. "You will not harm them," he said firmly. "Not while I stand here." The wolf circled slowly, a low rumble in its throat. Then, as if recognizing a kindred spirit, it stepped back, bowing its massive head slightly. Lyra exhaled, relief softening her posture. Even in the face of the unknown, she felt the fragile thread of control that tied the lost, the spirits, and the living creatures to her. "You are remarkable," Kael said quietly. "But there is more, isn't there? Something you are not telling me." Lyra's heart tightened. She had feared this moment the day she would reveal her secret. Yet, she sensed that the Alpha King's presence was different from others. He did not demand obedience. He sought understanding, not conquest. And so, cautiously, she spoke. "I can communicate with the spirits of the lost," she said. "Those who have no home, no family, no pack. They come to me. I guide them, calm them, and give them a chance to live again. It is a gift, but it is also a curse. If misused, it could bring chaos." Kael listened, absorbing each word. He felt a strange shift in himself, awe, respect, and a flicker of fear. He had faced enemies, disasters, and betrayals. Yet this was unlike anything he had encountered. A creature, small and rejected, holding power that even kings could not command. "Why reveal this to me?" he asked softly. Because you will return, she said. And when you do, the world will not be kind to what I protect. I trust you, though I do not know why. I sense that you are different. KL nodded, his eyes thoughtful. I am different in many ways, he admitted. But I am still an alpha. I am bound by duty. Yet, I do not wish to harm what you protect. Perhaps we can learn from each other. A hush fell over the valley, broken only by the soft rustling of the leaves and the gentle breathing of the pups. For the first time, Lyra and KL stood not as outsider and king, not as Omega and Alpha, but as equals in a fragile understanding. Then, the shadows stirred again. From the distant tree line came the sound of movement. Many footsteps. Coordinated, deliberate. Lyra's ears twitched. Her heart raced. She could sense the danger approaching, stronger than anything they had faced before. Her gift whispered warnings she could not ignore. They are coming, she said softly. A pack. Not ordinary wolves. Someone is hunting us. Kale's muscles tensed, the alpha in him rising to the call. Then we face them together, he said firmly. You and I. None will harm what we protect. The air grew colder, the shadows longer, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. From the darkness emerged the attackers, a rogue faction from a neighboring territory, seeking to claim the lost pups and destroy Lyra's sanctuary. They moved with precision, their eyes gleaming with greed and malice. Lyra stepped forward, gathering her courage. The pups huddled behind her, their trust giving her strength. KL moved beside her, silent, a wall of power and authority. Together, they faced the oncoming threat. You cannot take them, Lyra called, her voice ringing with the power of command and conviction. These pups are under my protection. The leader of the rogues laughed, sharp and cruel. A rejected Omega dares to defy us? You will regret this. Kale's eyes narrowed. They will regret stepping into this valley, he said. His voice carried not just authority, but a promise of retribution. The rogue pack faltered, sensing the storm of power and courage standing before them. Lyra's hands glowed faintly, a soft silver light that seemed to rise from within her. She could feel the spirits of the lost around her, circling, waiting for her guidance. The energy was raw, untested, but she focused, calling on her gift to calm the attackers' minds, to make them hesitate, to protect the innocent. The rogue pack stopped, confusion rippling through them as if a sudden wind had scattered their resolve. Kale seized the moment, his presence pressing like a shield, forcing them back step by step. Leave now, Lyra commanded, her voice stronger than before. Leave and harm none, or face the consequences. The leader of the rogues hesitated, sensing the impossible balance of power. The Alpha King's dominance and the Omega's unseen gift. Slowly, the pack retreated, growls fading into the night as they vanished into the forest. Lyra exhaled, the tension leaving her body in a wave. The pups nuzzled her, and she gathered them close. She felt the weight of the night's events settle over her. But she knew this was only the beginning. Kale remained silent for a moment, studying her with a mixture of awe and respect. You are extraordinary, he said finally. Not just for your gift, but for your courage. Even I am impressed. Lyra looked at him, silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. I do what I must, she said softly, and I do not do it for praise. For the first time, KL allowed himself to drop the mask of the Alpha. He felt a connection forming, fragile, unspoken, yet undeniable. Something about this Omega, rejected and alone, challenged him, softened him, and intrigued him all at once. But the night had left its mark. Both knew that danger would return, that the world beyond the valley did not forgive weakness or kindness, and deep inside, Lyra sensed that the bond forming between her and the Alpha King was only the beginning of a story far greater, far darker, and far more dangerous than either could yet imagine. Cliffhanger. As dawn approached, Lyra looked to the tree line and saw a shadow detach itself from the mist. It was silent, patient, and watching. Her ears twitched, heart pounding. She knew instinctively that this new threat would test not only her gift, but the fragile trust forming between her and KL, and could change the fate of every lost soul under her care. The first light of dawn cast a pale glow across the valley, washing the forest in silver and gold. Lyra moved among the pups, checking on each one, her senses alert for any sign of danger. The rogue pack had retreated, but she knew instinctively that they would not give up so easily. The world beyond her sanctuary was full of hunters, rival factions, and those who feared or misunderstood her gift. KL stood silently at the edge of the clearing, watching her with a mixture of admiration and concern. He had seen power before, strength that could command armies or crush enemies. Yet nothing had prepared him for the quiet authority Lyra wielded. It was not in her claws or her teeth, but in her courage, her compassion, and the way she inspired loyalty from those society had cast aside. "You did well last night," KL said softly, stepping closer. I underestimated you." Lyra looked up, silver eyes meeting his. There was no arrogance in his gaze, only honesty and something deeper. A vulnerability he rarely showed. "We did what we had to," she replied. "The pups are safe. That is all that matters." He nodded, though the tension in his shoulders remained. They will not always be safe. The world beyond this valley, it does not forgive kindness. Lyra's gaze hardened. "Then we will face it together. Alone, I am powerless. But with others, perhaps even you, we can protect what is precious." Kale's heart stirred at her words. He had ruled through strength and fear. But here was someone who reminded him that loyalty could be earned through care, trust, and respect. The realization was both unsettling and exhilarating. The valley was quiet, but the air carried the faintest hint of movement. Lyra's ears twitched, and the pups huddled closer to her. A shadow detached itself from the tree line, moving with silent intent. This time, there was no mistaking it a rival alpha, one who sought to seize the lost pups and claim Lyra's sanctuary for himself, had arrived. Kale's muscles tensed, his alpha instincts roaring to life. He stepped forward, placing himself between the intruder and Lyra. "You will not harm them," he said, voice low and unwavering. The rival alpha sneered, revealing sharp teeth in a cruel smile. "A rejected Omega? Protected by a king? How amusing. This valley will be ours, and the pups will serve our pack." Lyra's silver hair shimmered in the sunlight as she stepped beside Kale. She felt the spirits of the lost gathering around her, their presence ethereal, yet commanding. The pups whimpered, sensing the danger, and instinctively pressed against her legs. "You will not take them," Lyra said softly, yet there was a force in her voice that made the air itself seem to tremble. "They belong here, under my care, and you will leave this place, or face the consequences." The rival alpha growled, circling like a predator. "Do you think a weak Omega and a king can stop me?" Kale's eyes narrowed. "We do not think. We act." The battle began with a sudden, swift motion. Kale moved like a storm, powerful and precise, intercepting the rival alpha's attacks with strength and authority. Lyra, though smaller, moved with grace and focus, her gift guiding the spirits of the lost. She calmed the pups, strengthened their resolve, and even influenced the rogue alpha's minions, sowing hesitation in their ranks. Together, Lyra and Kale became a force of balance, her gift of guidance and empathy, his unmatched strength and experience. The rival alpha's pack faltered, unable to predict the synergy between the rejected Omega and the Alpha King. Lyra's hands glowed faintly as she extended her gift, sending waves of calm through the forest. Even the spirits of the lost joined her, their presence magnifying her power, creating a protective shield around the valley. The rival Alpha roared in frustration, unable to break through the invisible barrier. KL seized the moment, moving with deadly precision to confront the rival. He locked eyes with his opponent, the challenge clear. Strength met strength. Will met will. Until the rival realized that force alone could not win here. Finally, exhausted and defeated, the rival alpha signaled retreat. His pack followed reluctantly, leaving the valley in silence. The wind carried their growls into the distance, and the forest seemed to exhale, the tension lifting like mist under the morning sun. Lyra knelt among the pups, checking each one carefully. Their small bodies pressed against her, trusting her entirely. She felt the weight of responsibility, but also a quiet satisfaction. They were safe. For now, KL approached, his gaze softening as he looked at her. "You are extraordinary," he said. "Not just for your gift, but for your heart. I have underestimated the strength of one who is rejected." Lyra's silver eyes met his, reflecting both relief and something more, a growing bond that neither could deny. "It is not strength alone that protects," she said softly. "It is care, trust, love, even for those the world forgets." KL nodded, understanding her words on a level deeper than he expected. For the first time, he realized that leadership was not only about dominance, strategy, or fear. True power lay in understanding, in compassion, and in the courage to protect those who could not defend themselves. The valley seemed to hum with quiet energy, the spirits of the lost lingering nearby, their presence a silent acknowledgement of what had just transpired. Lyra and KL stood together, two leaders in their own right, bound not by fear or obligation, but by mutual respect and the unspoken promise of unity. "You are no longer alone," KL said quietly. "I will not leave you to face the world by yourself again." Lyra's heart stirred at his words. She had spent so long alone, guarding the lost and abandoned, carrying the weight of her exile. Now, for the first time, she felt the possibility of partnership, of trust, of shared responsibility, of connection that went beyond duty. "Then we face the future together," she said softly. "No matter what comes, we protect what must be protected." The pups played at her feet, the forest around them alive with the quiet music of survival and hope. The bond between Omega and Alpha, rejected and ruler, had deepened into something neither could ignore, a connection, forged in trials, strengthened by shared purpose, and bound by trust and care. Yet, even in this moment of peace, Lyra sensed the threads of destiny pulling at them. There would be more challenges, more threats, more decisions that would test both her courage and the Alpha King's wisdom. But for now, they had each other, and the Valley of the Lost had found its protectors. As the sun rose higher, painting the forest in warm light, Lyra and KL stood side by side, watching the pups explore the valley. She felt the spirits of the lost lingering nearby, calm and at peace. And she understood that her gift had not only saved the innocents, but also brought something new into the world: hope, balance, and unity. KL reached out, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face, and for the first time, their eyes met not as Omega and Alpha, but as equals, partners, in a story that had begun with rejection and fear, but had grown into something enduring, powerful, and beautiful. "Lyra," he said softly, "even kings must learn humility. You have taught me that, without even trying." Lyra smiled, a gentle, quiet light in her silver eyes. "And you have shown me that even those who rule with power can choose to protect rather than dominate. We are stronger together." The valley seemed to echo her words, a quiet affirmation from the world she had saved. The pups ran freely. The lost wolves lingered at the edges, and the spirits of the abandoned whispered their approval in the rustling leaves. Lyra and KL remained in the clearing, two figures bound by destiny and choice, watching the sun climb higher, knowing that the world beyond the valley would always challenge them. But together, they could face anything. And in that moment, Lyra understood the truth she had always carried. Even the rejected, even the exiled, could change the fate of kings.